Hi, good people. It's Amy from Savor Salvage Scent. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Thanks for being here with me. I am going to continue today a series focused on signature scents. I've made 3 videos in this series, and I'm going to finish with this video and then one more. This video is going to focus on the years 2007 through the beginning of the pandemic. Then I'll make one last video in this series that will focus on what I think are my signature scents today. Why did I start the series? I was listening to somebody I really love, Gabor Mate, talk about some things that either are obstacles to or aid happiness. And one of the things he talked about, working to your advantage, is authenticity. And so again, for a lot of people, that might be finding the job that really gets you closest to who you are, living fully who you are, et cetera, et cetera. And it got me thinking about my experience with perfumes and how signature scents quench a thirst, so to speak, in that area. For this installment, I'm going to call this time period in my life perfume libraries and personality conflicts. RIP to David Johansen, who just passed away, who a lot of you will know as the singer from the New York Dolls, and to all the rest of the New York Dolls. I believe he was the last of the living members. So like the rest of the series, this video is not only going to focus on my perfume experience during this time, but also other forms of expression and big life happenings that may have influenced this time. And in case you couldn't tell, I'm reading off notes. For me, this fragrance experience at this time was about returning to the vaults, about oldies, cheapies, and consuming everything else apparently as well. The biggest news for me personally during this period was both of my parents had passed away during this time. I miss them terribly, but frankly, I also, good and bad, found myself totally kind of feeling untethered. The beginning and ending of a long-term relationship for me, who I'll say was an antique dealer, and the significance of that might return later. Then some really lousy dating experiences and a choice to take time off. Also during this time, I made a big work transition out of and then back into a long-time museum job. Connected to that job were some really new and amazing shenanigans with artist friends, and that happened to take me to New York City a lot. Another big deal during this time for me was I moved from my beloved old historic 4th floor apartment in what was formerly a red light district in Cleveland to buy my first house, which was almost 100 years old when I bought it. I share this because I went from spending lots of time in this relationship antiquing and with more expendable income to spending most of my time renovating, gardening, walking, and really kind of focusing more on health consciousness. My perfume testing and buying during this period was all over the map, but I would say focused a lot on cheapies due to having these other costs. And then I would say it almost became compulsive and self-soothing. As always, there were a lot of road trips for me and traveling. During this time, a lot of my travels were for my relationship back and forth to the Detroit area. Went to the Brimfield Antique Show, which was kind of a lifelong dream. Went to Miami a lot. Went to New York almost every year during the summer. I went from doing tons of antiquing and then to basically none. I got really burned out on that and wanted to scale down. This period also ended with my first trip to France. Overall, in this time, it was kind of like back to the vaults, like for instance in my perfume life, and then spreading out, experimenting again. And it was that way with music again for me. So the things I remember listening to a lot during this time that I felt like were back to the vaults for me were seeking out classics like Herbie Hancock. I really dug into during this time. Al Jarreau, kind of coming back from my childhood. Herb Alpert as well. Curtis Blow, which was one of my first albums growing up. DeBarge. Parliament Funkadelic was always kind of in my periphery. One of my best friend's mother listened to Maggot Brain every Friday night when I was growing up. But I really got into Parliament during this time. Really got into some jazz that my parents had kind of turned me on to. I'm like with Blossom Dearie. I got back into some stuff I listened to from childhood. The Daz Band, the Gap Band. Sabbath became a big deal for me during this time. The Wu-Tang Clan. And as always and forever, the Talking Heads. I was still, in my mind, young enough that I was gobbling up new music as well. A lot of shows and CDs. I think about Amy Winehouse, Kendrick Lamar, Fleet Foxes, Joanna Newsom, Bright Eyes, Arcade Fire, The Postal Service, Modest Mouse, The Arctic Monkeys, The Strokes, Management, and Van Hunt. Saw lots of films during this time as well, and always. What I remember most are Where the Wild Things Are, Moonlight, Shoplifters, Parasite, There Will Be Blood, Oh Brother, Wherefore Art Thou, The Extra Man, Gigantic, The Florida Project, The Lobster, Get Out. And then there were tons of TV obsessions, but what come to my mind most are Mad Men, American Horror Story, Atlanta, and A Forever Love, Arrested Development. And for that reason, I'll always say, but there's always money in the banana stand. So, perfumes. What's relatable here? Again, I kind of went back to the vaults and then I spread out. So, the ones that I see as back to the vault were, and by the way, these are not all the perfumes I consumed, and that's part of the issue. These are the ones I remember wearing enough that I think people could, or myself could, perceive them, not conceive them, as a signature scent. So, what were the ones I wore the most that were kind of from the vault? Mackie. Man, I'll love this thing forever. If you want bubblegum in a bottle with some florals, this is the most beautiful powdery bubblegum, and I love the bottle. Next, Bijan. This I call everything in a bottle. It is also powdery. I'm realizing, you know, some of my ongoing themes, but this is just so many florals. But again, what sticks out for me is this beautiful powdery scent. And another bottle that I think warrants Contemporary Art Award. Mwah, beautiful. Another from the vault. This is when I started to wear the heck out of 4711. I think this is my third or fourth bottle. I have it in so many iterations now, thanks to my friend Molly. I could drown in this and will forever drown in it because it's dirt cheap. Love it. Also, another obsession, anything that's neroli and herb-based. Okay, another classic that I wore like crazy during this time, I think this is my second bottle, and I have a backup. This is Vicky Tiel's Sirene. I feel like nobody talks about this. This is, to me, the epitome of the 80s bombastic floral. I think it's from the 80s. This is way more floral than some of these others I've spoken of already. Again, white florals stick out, but this is just so loud and so wonderful. And again, can you tell that bottles are an influence for me? Look at this thing. When I first started buying this during this period, it was like $8 to $10 a bottle. I think it's been reformulated. I'm not sure it's around anymore. If it is still, it's in a reformulated composition that isn't quite as good as this one. If you want to find the old one that's, I think, terrific, you want to look for this ambery dark stuff, not the pink stuff. Anyway, Vicky Tiel Sirene. Mwah. And another, I would say two more actually from kind of the old classics or vault is Diorissimo. Ooh, if you want a beautiful spring scent that smells like daffodils and other spring flowers, this is it. So good, smells like money. And Kiehl's original Musk became a total obsession during this time. And I don't think it'll ever stop being an obsession. God, I love this, it's so good. So those are some of the vault classics that I went back to. Another that is sadly missing because it is no longer being made, hasn't been for some time, and I think there are only a few bottles left in the world and they're so freaking expensive, I'll put a picture, is Crown Stephanotis. If If you've never smelled Stephanotis, it's basically like, to me, a really heady, powdery, almost with like a carnation feel or clovey aspect, white floral, gorgeous. And this perfume just did it all for me, and I can't get it anymore. I also went back to some classics from houses that I'd already explored in my past and then branched out. So some of those that come to mind are, I wore the heck out of Bvlgari Jasmin Noir. This was my like dating scent and going out scent. I loved this, still love it. Beautiful, RIP. Went back to things from the Body Shop. This did not get talked about hardly at all. I think it's called Nigratella. And if you like Samsara from Guerlain, chances are you'd like this. I think this is hard to pick up now, but boy, I wore the heck out of this. This is, I think, my third bottle. I could get it really cheaply at TJ Maxx for a while, which is usually a sign that sometimes it might be going out of commission, but I wore this and the cream. I'm out of the cream. This is my last bottle. Love it. Nigratella by The Body Shop. Next, both Pomegranate Noir and Jo Malone's Vanilla Anise perfumes. These were some of the first things I spent real money on. When I got like promotions, I would buy myself a bottle. I will continue to say when people talk about how our friend Jo Malone doesn't last long or isn't strong, Pomegranate Noir is the first and only scent to ever get me written up at work, okay? Covet, Sarah Jessica Parker. I think this smells niche, and what I love about it is it combines things that most people would just be aghast by the combination. It is things like citrus, lavender, chocolate. Is there coffee in this? It is just, it smells to me like a latte with some lavender and chocolate in the background. It's totally weird. I love it. And I love Sarah Jessica Parker and her brain for liking things that are out of the box. Dove deeper with Chanel on the cheap. I bought number 5 used, and this thing is so strong. I wear this a lot, and look, only that much of a dent because it takes about 2 sprays. I love this when I feel like I need a force field. And then this tiny little bottle of Coromandel because that's all I can afford. And guess what? I have gone, this is my second little teeny tiny. And again, because of how potent this guy is, or girl, not sure. Yeah, I've only needed that much and it's great. I could go on and on about, I did a lot of Chanel trying and testing during this time, and there are a lot more that I love, but not many I can afford. What else during this time? I went farther with Guerlain. I just did a video about my favorites with Guerlain, so I'm not going to talk about them specifically right now or show you, but the ones that come to mind are all iterations of Shalimar. I got deeply into Chamade, and my favorite Aqua Allegoria was Limon Verde during this time. And then another one that's missing, but on order from this time that I wore like crazy, and I think most people do not like, is Lanvin's Rumeur. It is just such an outstanding, almost obnoxious rose and floral scent with some, I think if I'm correct, it has some patchouli too. And I ran out. I love that scent. And then the other thing that I did during this time perfume-wise is I just started, I went from what can I get cheaply? What are the classics? What can I dive back into in houses that I already know that I love? And then everything else, just consume. Just get your hands on everything that's affordable, cheap, traded, etc. So other ones that became signature scents during this time were Marc Jacobs Lola. This is my third bottle. I had 2 kind of like travel ones, and then I got this partial bottle really affordably. I think this is since out of commission. This is one of my favorite rose scents, and I just wore it so much during this time. This is one of many in my collection where you spray it at first and you're like, and then within a few minutes of drying down, it is so original, so beautiful. And Mama loves this bottle. Another scent during this time that I wore like crazy, and thank goodness I bought a few of these before it went out of commission. I think it's been re-released, but you know, recomposed. This is a oil version of the celebrity scent Kate Walsh's Boyfriend. This to me is one of the most beautiful gourmand musks, but has a little bit of woodiness too. I love this. And I think the name Boyfriend is perfect. My understanding is she was trying to go for that like scent of perhaps being a woman and wearing your man's shirt the morning after kind of scent. It kind of combines both smells, and I think hit the nail on the head with this, and I love it. So good. Kate Walsh's Boyfriend. I also got deeply into banana scents during this time. I still am, but one of my favorites was Comptoir Sud Pacific's Vanille Banane. Just love it. I feel like this is a note that is not explored enough. I have one video below that was dedicated to this note or scent, and I will do another one soon. I also got really into carnation at this time. I think part of the reason was my parents' signature scents were, my mom was really into Halston, and I should mention that I got really into a newer flanker of Halston Amber during this time. But the reason I bring up carnation is my dad was really into Old Spice and wore that most of his life. And I think some men would be surprised to know that it was very heavily drenched with the scent of carnation and clove. Well, I think that set me off into this like love of carnation scents. And one of my favorites, this is my second bottle, was one called Noble Carnation by Royal Apothic. This has come in and out of commission, is very rarely in commission. I think it is the perfect gourmand carnation. It is just, it's sweet and soft and vanillic, but it also has this great dose of that spicy carnation. It's just so beautiful. Speaking of spices, something I fell in love with during this time was Kenzo's Jungle Elephant. And as you can see, love it. This is a spicy one. I tend to only wear this during the fall and winter. God, it's so beautiful. Spicy, 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 must like spice. But boy, is it beautiful. And I think it's animalic. Like, I don't think this elephant thing is a coincidence. Also fell in love with Serge Lutens at this time. I'm not going to talk about all of them because I have a video dedicated to, and I'm going to do a new video about my collection. But the one that I found, or actually two that I wore the most, were during this time in Bois Vanille, which is probably, I would say, still my favorite vanilla. It's a licoricey, coconutty vanilla. Everything I love. So beautiful. And I also wore Datura Noir a lot. I think that was actually my first Serge Lutens scent. Both of those I wore enough that I think could be seen as a signature scent. I also fell in love with the scent Musk Ravageur during this time, but can't afford the thing, frankly. And so found L'Herbalario's Meharis. This is very, very close. Runs more about $30 to $40, and this is a very gourmand musk. Like, I think it's neck to neck between Musk's Kubla Khan from Luton and maybe Jungle Elephant. It's like this vanilla, spicy gourmand mixed with musk. It's so good. Totally fell in love with Jean-Claude Elena and his creation of many of the Hermès creations, but the one that I have worn the most is he did this whole garden series, and this is the one called Sur le Nil. So it's based on scents that he perceived around the Nile, and what sticks out in this one for me are green scents, a little mango. I'm not sure if these notes are right, by the way, but this is what I get. I just think this is one of the most interesting light green scents. Light in that it's not going to knock you out like Cabotin or Cabochard, which I love, but also sticks with you still for more than a couple hours. I love this thing. Love it around water. I also went searching for my favorite orange flower scents during this time. I grew up smelling orange flower and mock orange. It's one of my favorite scents. However, a lot of the orange flower scents that were popular during this time and since were, I think, these really, really heady, syrupy, almost headache-inducing sweet orange blossom scents. And I wanted something that was more true to the floral. And this cheapie the Orange scent or the French Orange Blossom scent by Sola Notes, to me is spot on, and it has become one of my best friends' signature scents as well. We just both love this, and this was something I picked up when I went to France the first time at the very end of this period, and just have been wearing it ever since. Other scents that I remember wearing like crazy during this time were Jimmy Choo's Signature. I was at a bar once and the bartender wearing this smelled so good that I got up the nerve and I was like, listen, I have to know what you're wearing. And she said, oh my God, I love it. Not only am I gonna tell you what I'm wearing, and she like pulled it out of her purse and told me where to go buy it. That's how good this is to me. It is to me, many, many florals with patchouli were popular during this time and since, but this is the one for me. It, to me, also has a major vanilla thing running through it. Not everybody gets that, but boy, that's what I get, and I love this thing. And I also remember wearing, both using the soap and this aromatherapy spray by Zum Mist a lot during this time. This is the frankincense and myrrh one. I get a lot of like hippie patchouli in this too. And last but not least, and I'm not going to go into the details here because I have so many videos about it and we'll do more videos about it. And these I feel like are in different ends of the spectrum. I got deeply into Bath & Body Works during this time. I did not love Bath & Body Works as a teenager and even early in my 20s, like a lot of people did. A lot of those early scents did not resonate with me at all. I think I was really getting into the indie thing a lot. But toward the end of this period, 2015 on, I think part of it was because I had such a tight budget. And I had smelled a few good things like their kind of famous vanilla scent that was just, they were undeniably good. And so I started going to their sales and picking things up for $5 and $6. And just, there are some that I still love today. And I continue to buy some of their new releases that are great. So I'll dedicate a video to that, and I'll also put some links below based on my love of those. But the other thing that happened toward the end of this period for me is I started to really dig into some indie houses and some more affordable, I would say, indie houses. Sucre Bay, I started to really get into. One of my favorites is called Byzantine, super spicy tea scent that I absolutely love. Ganache Perfumes, which has come in and out of commission various times, but I think is no longer a thing. But I really got into both their ginger ale scent, and then they had a couple other scents that were supposed to represent soda, and I wear them all. So ginger ale, there's a red soda one, red cream soda, and then there's an orange pop one. Those all have since been scents that I've worn a lot. I really got into Alchemia. Some of the scents that I wore the most were a fortune cookie scent, one called Country Fair, and then one called Silk Intent, that is this really interesting mixture of gourmands and chrysanthemum. And then I became newly obsessed with Solstice Scents, my favorite indie house, and that has not let up. I'm not going to speak in detail about that right now because I have so many videos dedicated to that house, and I will do another one soon. So those are the scents that I think of as signature scents from about 2007, 2008 until the pandemic. During this time of back to the vault and then everything else. Again, what comes to my mind is what didn't I try, and thus begins a personality crisis. I would love to hear from you. Do you have a time where you felt like your perfume obsession not only kicked in, but perhaps broadened a little too much? And have you reeled it back in? All right, talk soon. Have a great day. Peace. Bye.